Hello, I'm Jacqueline King. Welcome to my sewing space where I come to inspire and encourage the new or frustrated sewing. So far, we have several videos put together in our zipper series, and today we're going to continue along. If you were with us last time, you know that we put a zipper in this sweatshirt. We put a nylon coil into a children's sweatshirt jacket. I want to say something about this method, that although we put it in a sweatshirt jacket, this is the same method that I use when I put a zipper in a parka that does not have a flap. Same method, different material. But today we are going to be focused on putting a zipper in a parka with a flap. There's a little bit of a tweak that I do to my method to accommodate this. It makes it a fast but very nice finish, because we know that's the goal, right? We sew for excellence, not perfection. We want it fast, but we want it nice. So that's what we're going to focus on today. If you have not already seen our previous zipper videos, you will benefit greatly by going back and watching, because each video prepares you for the next video to come. So watching the video on our little sweatshirt will help you in putting in your zipper in your parka. So I'm not going to belabor what I've already gone over previously. I showed you how to remove a zipper safely, carefully from your garment. I'm going to do that now. But there is a little difference because we have the flap. So remember that the goal is to slide when possible to get the cleanest cut, but we do not want to cut our parka. Take your time. If you have to clip, that's okay. I find it the easiest to remove when the zipper is closed. And if you have to chop to get the job done at first, if this is your first attempt, that's fine. What we're trying to do is remove this, leaving the zipper tape in the jacket, because this saves time instead of picking every stitch out by hand. And we get up to the top and boom, the one side is done. And as I previously showed you, kind of squeeze and pet. And what this does is it exposes loose threads that we want to make sure are gone before we put our new zipper in, so that they don't get in the way and bog our zipper slide. Okay, that is good enough for a start. Now, as before, we turn our garment and start up at the top. On this side, we have our flap, so we want to make sure, pull that out of the way. Our scissor goes on top of the flap and on top of the zipper tape, like so. And you will just clip. Don't try to slide it here to begin it. Put that bottom blade underneath clip and slide carefully to remove the old zipper teeth. And this is where experience helps, because your hands will adapt to how they need to handle the garment. There we go. If you need to, you can press that flap, get the wrinkles out. It might aid you. But I'm kind of lazy at times about things like that. True confession. I've come a long way in my patience. I don't believe in get her done anymore. I did that a long time ago, and get her done may get her done, but she may not look exactly wearable. So, if the point is wearing a garment, forget get her done. Do it well, do it with excellence. Almost there. Now, we get that close to the bottom. I'm pushing the flap away with my fingers underneath, and now we can clip at the box. And we have removed our zipper tape. Now you may be wondering, how are we going to get the new zipper in nicely if we didn't open this up? You're going to see the little trick I developed. So let's take a break. We're going to get set up at the sewing machine, and I'll show you my method. All right, here we are at the sewing machine, all prepped and ready to start. Now, first thing I want to talk about is on this particular parka, it's multicolored. So I've got to decide what I want for my top color thread. My bobbin is gray. That's because the interior is gray, my zipper is gray, so I just went with a gray bobbin. Eventually, I will be switching my top thread over to gray, and that is when we get ready to sew the flap side of the zipper in. You'll see why then. However, for now, I see that the manufacturer used a red stitch on top. Light gray, dark gray, and red. They chose red thread. So it would make sense that I'm going to use red thread, because I'm going to be following that stitch line initially in putting the zipper in. So, just like our previous video, starting at the left front side of the zipper at the bottom, I can tell that this is where my zipper started. This is where I began my cutaway. And so I will begin my sewing there. What you want as far as placement is the edge of the parka near but not tight to the teeth, because remember, our slider needs room to move up and down. So this is about the placement that you will have. So I'm going to go ahead and put the needle in at this place here to get it started. When I get it all lined up, then we will sew it in. By the way, I want to mention again that I do have a size 90 needle, which would be otherwise known as a denim needle. You want a 90 or 100. If it's thicker, you're definitely going to need a 100 needle in this. Push that little box as far out of the way as you can. My needle is in. My thread tails are together behind. I'll hold them. We're just going to roll my stitch length is a little bit longer than construction. And I'm just hand turning the wheel. 1, 2, 3, and now I will go in reverse. 1, 2, 3, trying to keep my stitches in the original red stitch line. Okay, now we know it's secured in our starting place. By the way, if you have a hood that is removable on your jacket, remove it. Try to lighten the load as much as possible. You've got to keep all the weight of this coat on top of the table, or if it's falling off, they're heavy and it's going to fight you the whole way. So if you have a portable on the tabletop, the same thing. Just make sure that the weight of the jacket is up on top, not fighting against you. And this is not necessarily a speed race. Take your time. These folds can sometimes get in the way. You're going to be pushing, massaging with your fingers as you sew along. You don't want a tiny stitch because you might have to remove these stitches and start again. And I want to remind you that if you're timid about trying this out on your North Face or Columbia, then you go to the thrift store and you buy something for $5 and you practice. If you get it in well, in the $5 thrift store find, you can redonate that afterwards. But that'll be good practice for you. I was very timid to do these. Goodness gracious, I've told the story, how I cried. Now, once we get to a certain area, we've got it started well, we want to stop and go up here because we need to see where we're going to end. As you can tell, I did not finish the tops of my zipper, and there's a reason for that. But at this point, what I will do is fold the end of the zipper side that I'm sewing, and I'm going to put a little clip in it. Clips work really well for these, better than straight pins. Straight pins tend to bend in this heavy stuff. Okay, so trying not to stretch the coat too far, I line it up and I see here is where it's going to end, and that's fine. So at this point, go like that. This is still, I consider, an estimate end, but it gives me enough that I can continue comfortably and know that I'm going to end up in the right place. You don't want to end up too short, too far below, or over the edge, because that would look goofy. And you can see that I'm able to do this with one hand, but I'm checking as I go. When I say fast method, I'm not talking about being super speedy. I'm talking about using a method that is faster than another means. Now at this point, we can start to get our slide out of the way. Just lift that presser foot up, push it down. And yes, the coat wants to curl and fight me, but we will make it submit. Just pretend you're a Roman soldier out on the battlefield and you're going to make it submit. Submit to me. Submission, that's a heavy topic, isn't it? It's one I think about all the time. Submitting to God And yes, submitting to my husband when I don't agree with him. He's the head of the house. That means he's not the boss of me. It means he has the responsibility of me. And if I don't want to get in trouble with God, I submit to my husband. If he makes a mistake, that's between him and God, and I'm safe. If I fight my husband and refuse to submit, I could create a really big problem. And then it's on me. Best case scenario in tough decisions, submit to your husband and let God work it out. Amen? It's really easy to say, it's not so easy to do. Zippers submit easier to me than I do to my husband. I'll be honest. Don't ask my husband about that. That'll be a long conversation you don't want to get into. All right, how did I get on that? Oof. Okay, so you see how I sewed all the way up. I turned, took a couple of stitches here. That's just to secure that flap at the finish underneath, so that's not going to come undone. And now, as always, we sew another row because this is too much to let hang loose. I'm going to begin at the bottom to keep it just uniform, looking nice, as if the manufacturer did that. And my presser foot here has this little narrow finger, so I'm going to use that as a guide. The edge of this finger is at the edge of that stitching, like so. I'm going to put my needle in and then reverse. You know my trick if you've watched other videos. I put my needle in at least 1/4 of an inch from the edge and back up. Then we go forward. So once I've got that placed, you can now go a little faster than you originally did, but don't speed through this. Don't put that pedal all the way down because this is very thick and you will break a needle. I'm actually pushing down, applying a little pressure because it's so thick. Makes it easier for my needle to travel along. See what I mean? That jacket wants to keep falling off. For a long time, my husband wanted me to do videos, and I said, I don't want to do videos. I was not comfortable with that idea, and I did not submit to his suggestion. Eventually, it was God that pressed upon me. This would be a very valuable thing for me to do for him. It's good for people to have skills at home, to not be dependent on professionals for everything. And I'm backing up. You know that these zippers at the bottom and top ends get tons of stress. So take several back and forward stitches to lock those in. Clip and clip. And we have the beginnings of a nice new zipper in this coat. Okay, here is the part you have all been patiently waiting for. We are going to flip it and get ready to sew our zipper in the other side. So I'm going to remove it. Oops, let's clip away these threads. No messy strings hanging when we're done sewing, right? Neat and tidy. Okay, So here is what I want you to see. If I sew this side of the zipper in on top of the flap, it will go in. That works. However, the teeth of the zipper are way over here away from the edge of the parka. And if I had pulled all these stitches out, it would mean that and put my zipper in that way, then my teeth would be right at the edge where they belong. But again, I'm trying to do this fast but nice, so I'm not going to bother picking all those stitches out. What I'm going to do is show you my method for prepping this side of the zipper to go on the flap, so the teeth will end up much closer. So what this is going to require is my pliers, my needle nose, and you can either at this point finish the top of your zipper or do my little turn under method that I'm going to show you and then finish it. Doesn't matter either way. But what we do need to do is remove our our red thread, because this is going to be exposed. So we're going to sew now with gray thread. Remember, I have my gray bobbin in already. So let's change that out. Let's see how fast I can thread a needle on camera. I just put a little mouth juice on there to smooth out the fiber, clip the end, put my finger behind to see the hole, and wow, I still got it. I can still thread a needle. Okay, let's get the clip out of the way, and here we go. Let's back up, and remember, this is the top of our zipper. This is the side that'll be up. So I am not going to do this. I'm going to fold under, because that will leave a nice clean finish. So I have plastic here. My first step is to take the needle nose right out at the edge and bend that plastic. Think of this plastic like me in God's hands, learning to submit. God's hands are not like a plier. I shouldn't joke like that. God does it lovingly. I'm the one that fights and struggles. Okay, so I've squeezed that enough, so that should stay. So, turning this over so that the fold is on the top of the zipper, without putting my zipper foot down. This takes a little wrangling. Let's see if I can do it. As I've always said, it's so easy to do this when I'm not on camera. I'm going to take my, no, that's not going to work. I'm just trying to get that plastic to stay down. So before I put my presser foot down, there, put my needle through the plastic. And the point being, you want the narrow side. If you have to put your zipper foot on, you know there are specific feet made for zippers. I don't need to do that with this method, but if you want to put your zipper foot on at this point, you can do that if it makes it easier for you. But I'm sewing with that narrow finger, again, next to the teeth. Let me take those threads in hand so that they don't knot up. I don't really have to sew in reverse here because I'm going to sew over this when it's put on the coat, but we can do that. I can even use a longer stitch. Okay, getting it started is the hardest thing because the rest of that cotton zipper tape goes right over. So with my narrow side of the foot next to the teeth, and the edge is not like that, but like this, because the zipper slide needs to go along there. What I'm doing is putting a narrow finish on this side of the zipper so that when I place it onto the flap, it will be much closer to the edge and look much nicer when it's done. And I've said previously in other videos that because I sew for a living, this is what I do, and I truly love to preserve good jackets and coats. I had to find a method where I didn't have to pick with my seam ripper all the time, because that, especially, this is a Columbia brand jacket, and Columbia is notorious for tiny stitches. I wonder if in the dictionary the word Columbia means tiny stitches, because whenever I work on Columbia gear, it's very hard to take apart with a seam ripper. And that was a big part of my frustration when I was learning to do this for the first time. So this is my method where I don't have to spend half a day picking out threads. And now it's not finished, so I'm gonna go all the way up, and at the edge we'll take a couple of stitches back, boom, and come off. And now my zipper is prepped. When I sew it next to that edge, look at that, it looks as if the edge of the zipper tape is inside the coat. But we saved a lot of time. All right, so now I have to finish my edge. Fold over 45 degrees to the underside and fold down. This is very thick, especially because we have sewn it folded over. It's thicker than the other side. So I give a squeeze of the pliers, like so. Set my needle in without catching my finger. Put the presser foot down. With my needle in, I can lift up and get my threads. And there, then I turn it. Just turn by hand. A couple of times. You're going to sew over it again when it is put into the jacket. Okay. So trim all of your threads. Close so that nothing is left to get in the way of our zipper slide. And I want to clean this edge up. That looks pretty good, I think. Okay. So let me get reoriented. As in the previous episode, we begin our zipper, the right side at the bottom, by anchoring it. We have to make sure that we are lining up so that both edges are where they need to be. If we don't take the time, we can be off a little bit, and that it would not be nice. So I'm going to take a straight pin and just go like so. And now I can get all of that out of the way. And my first step in putting the zipper on the right side of the jacket, oops, I failed to trim those. Okay, making sure that the slide is on top. Station that zipper box at the pin. And we can do this at the machine. Hold it like that. Now, be very particular about getting the edge of the tape right to the edge of the jacket. I love that this is red and our zipper's gray because you can really see it here. Putting my box at my straight pin. I can put my needle in, and my pressure is like so. I'm pressing my tape right up against the edge of the jacket. You see how nice it is to have that narrow finger on my presser foot. Okay, this is a high stress area, so I'm going to be coming back down over it, but I'm still going to sew back and forth to really lock those threads in. This is one of the few times I will tell you, go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Otherwise, those threads are just going to break quickly. I pull out my straight pin and get these threads out of the way. All right, we've got some lining up to do. I talked about that in our sweatshirt video. So let's bring our pull down. If you watch that video, you know what I'm going to do. See how that lines up nice? Okay, we have several points that we want to match as we're sewing our zipper in. Because here's the design of the jacket, right? So we want this chevron shape to line up perfectly. In gray, I don't want to use a pencil because that will show on top. Where my point of my chevron comes down, I'm going to put a straight pin. Let's see. Just catching a couple of threads of the zipper tape. That's all you want to do. And now I'm going to go up here, and that red point at that chevron, the chevron is the point of that design. Just going to put a straight pin, and I'm putting it in this direction because when I sew, that's how I can pull it out. Okay, so I've got these chevrons, and there is a chevron here but no matching chevron, so I'm not going to worry about that, and that's where we already anchored it to begin. One more point to check is the end point at the top of the zipper. By the way, all of this becomes automatic when you've done it a few times. So lay the two sides together side by side so that you can see where that metal stopper is on the left of the jacket. Then I'm going to put a straight pin right there. And that should be, I'm going to move it up a little bit, and that should be the top of my metal stopper. That's where we're going to start. It's fussy work, but this is a fussy jacket. Typically, you don't have this much to think about. All right, so where I put my straight pin in at the top, I am going to trim away a little more from that rough edge. I want this nice and tight. There. Get anything out of the way that's going to hinder that. Okay, here's my straight pin. So that's the top of my metal stopper. Don't worry about the straight pin. I'm going to take it out before I sew. I just want to get my needle in. There. Now I know that's not going to go anywhere. Okay. Straightening everything out. What we're going to do now is we're going to sew from point to point to point to bottom finish. Sewing point to point ensures that everything is going to line up perfectly. You know, this is typically, this is more, a little more involved than a jacket that doesn't, say you're just sewing on a black jacket or a white jacket, a pink jacket. This is more involved because it's multicolored and you have to make sure everything lines up. If you can do this, you can do a solid jacket easy. So it's okay that I've taken a little bit more complicated design to teach this. Here's an important point for you to know. I over pull. Here's what I mean. I'm pulling the zipper to my left. I'm going to take a few stitches, of course. 1, 2, 3. Back up. And the reason I'm going to over pull in that direction is because I tried getting it very close, the two edges really close together, just butting them up tight, and it doesn't seem to work as well. Okay, so here is my pin at the bottom of that chevron. Stretch and go slow right at the edge, just overlapping. There's a lot to handle, there's a lot to think about. This is probably as complicated as it'll ever be in replacing a zipper jacket. So if I can do this on camera and show you, you can do a vest, a winter vest, a down vest, I'm trying to say. Like I said, just a monochrome, solid color. Practice on those thrift store and yard sale items. You know, you can do the same thing for learning how to replace a zipper in a pair of jeans, which is a frequent repair that people ask me to do. The principles are the same. There are points that have to line up, and you just take your time. You know, here's a really great thing to do, which I really appreciate. I never had for a long time, which is I have a phone that I can take photos. Before you take your zipper off, before you cut it away, take a picture. If you're afraid, I'm going to take that off and I'm not going to remember, take some pictures with your camera. They can always be deleted after. I, of course, have 3,000 images on my camera, on my phone, because I always forget to eliminate them. Okay, this looks a little off, so that's okay. Then I pull on the zipper slightly and overlap, slightly, pushing and pulling and pulling and pushing. Your fingers get a great workout. You'll have the grip of Hercules when you've finished doing these, which is not a bad thing. Let's take a moment before we continue and see. This is the finished effect. When we pull that zipper slightly to our left, then the finished effect is exactly where we want it to be. Oh, I love that. So neat, so pretty. Now, at this point, we still have this much to go. I'm going to put tension at the bottom, just pull at the base of the zipper. With my right hand, I'm overlapping. With this hand, I'm kind of putting pressure on the jacket itself. This finger on top guides. And as you go along, you'll get that needle right in the very edge of the zipper. This is a case where you definitely want to edge sew your zipper tape. This is our first go. We're going to go down again. But listen, you know, I do this for money. And when people pay you money, you have to do very nice work. I know there are people who don't necessarily think it's important. They'll get her done, but that's not how we roll here. And I'm going to keep going, even though this is where we've anchored it. That reverse, high stress area, so. Pull it out, and it's in. And my body temperature is about 20 degrees warmer than before I started this. Because it is, your body will experience stress. Focusing, you're hyper-focused, trying to remember everything you have to do, and then you're hyper-focused physically with all the different things you have to do with your hands, your grip. So my body temperature is a little warm, but we're coming into the cold months, so that's not a bad thing, right? Clip away at the back, clip away at the front. And now I will say it's probably a good idea at this point to put your zipper foot in, because this is still pretty loose and flappy. We want to do a second run, so our second run should be coming closer to the teeth. And let's show you. If I leave this foot on at this point, it's fine. I can do that. Here's where my needle's going to be. If I take this foot off, put my zipper foot on, I'm going to move, loosen that screw in the back and push that over so my needle is to the right of the foot. And now there's nothing between. You see, I could get right up there. Of course, we don't want to. We have to leave room. But see how much closer my stitches come, which means less flapping, less stress, and a longer lasting zipper. So I'm going to go in reverse as I put my needle in down below. And you can even go off a little bit. Hand roll that wheel to get situated. Make sure your threads are started well and not knotting up. And now you can see the proximity of my needle to those teeth, leaving the space for the slider to go up and down. You might think, fussy, 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 I just will pay Jackie to do it for me. Well, here's some news for you. I'm not going to be around forever. That's why I'm doing these videos. I want you to know you can do this. I want to inspire you to try. I want to encourage you, if you've tried it before, try my tried and true methods. Believe me, if I counted every jacket zipper I've replaced in the last 8 years, well, I haven't counted because there's so many. Maybe I can't even count that high. But there was a day when I did not know how to put a zipper in a jacket. And now I'm sitting here at my sewing machine telling you how to do it, showing you how to do it. You can do this and be successful. And yes, you will be frustrated a little bit, and you'll have to maybe use your seam ripper a little bit the first time. But what a blessing when your little one tears their coat, when the dog, you have no idea how many pieces of clothing I mend in here and fix zippers because the new puppy ate it. Of course, I always ask them how the funeral was for the new puppy. That's my sense of humor. I used to have a dog who ate my boots. And one day I realized I couldn't really be angry at the dog because I was leaving my boots out in the living room every night when I went to bed. So in the morning I got up and there would be a hole in the toe of my beautiful dingo boots. Rather than kill the dog, I started putting my boots in the closet and shutting the closet door. So, let's see if we are successful. A dingo ate your baby. I used to love dingo boots. That was back in the 80s. I don't know if people still wear dingoes today. They were nice boots. All right, now let me turn it around and let's look over our work. The bottom looks good. Our chevron points meet beautifully, and the edge of our tape is butted very nicely to the edge of our jacket. And we did that without removing a single stitch with our seam ripper. And that is a piece that I would be very happy to hand back to a client and charge them money for. Nothing to be sorry about or regretful over in that. So, if you've ever wondered if you could do it, I'm here to tell you, if I could learn it, you can too. I did all the heavy lifting with the mental gymnastics to figure this out, and I'm here taking the time to video it today because you can replace a zipper in your jacket. And think of the possibilities from that. If you can replace a zipper in a jacket, can you do it in a pair of jeans. Should we do a pair of jeans? Oh, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. In the meantime, get cracking, get sewing, and try. You have a great day. Be blessed, and I'll be back again soon.